Welcome back to Two Pugs podcast. I'm Ray Roche, and this friend here is
Jim Lavery.
Yeah. How have you been?
And yeah, I've been great. Welcome back, everybody. So I don't know if we're going to put numbers up. I think this is number 3 of our podcast, our chats about comics. So this is going to become starting to become a bit of a habit for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome back. If this is just your visit, you come back, you're very welcome. And this, I think, is number 3. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I've been reading a bit of comics. I've been looking up at some of my old comics. You sent me through, we'll maybe get into it a bit later on. You sent me through, remind me the name of the sci-fi comic that you did.
Oh, Soma.
Yes, Soma. So maybe talk about that if we've got time later on. I was reading that and I went back over some stuff, and then you reminded me of some stuff again last week. So I'm not 100% sure if we'll get to all of that this week, but I've been doing a lot of reading of comics this week, which is something I often don't get a chance to do because I'm just drawing so much.
Happens.
What about you? Yeah. Have you reading much or researching anything or?
Actually, I have for something that might be there in the future. I hate to jinx it, like, I kind of say too much,
Yeah.
Because if you wait 3 or 4 weeks and someone sees this, they'll ask you, where's that coming out? When's it happening? And you got to say, well, it'll be a year away if it happens, kind of.
Yeah.
Might be geared towards making a pitch to American publishers. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
So
you're a wild tease, right? You just
last year now we weren't doing anything because of COVID, so I put a few feelers out to American publishers and got some good feedback on a couple of things. Trying to incorporate it from the start. It's very difficult to take a comic that's nearly there and then change it for someone else. If you start from scratch and plan it to be something, that's different. You don't make so many mistakes. It's not as waste of time, This week we've been mostly gearing up for Comic-Con in Dublin, and hasn't happened since 2019. And believe it or not, we paid for the table back then, and the lads let us carry it forward each time. It was set up and then cancelled, and the organising cancelled, and it was great. There were pros and cons to it. One, everyone said the same thing. It was great to be there again and see people and be selling stuff and getting feedback and show people what you've been doing for the last 2 years. The cons were they could only have a certain number of people in, and they were very aware of space, and it was a one-way system. So if people didn't come towards your table, they tend to pass the whole lot by. But other than that, it's a really well-run thing. I mean, for the number of people that get through that convention center, safe, it's just an amazing feat, to organize. But had a great time, met lots of people, people I haven't seen in literally 3 years, and got to touch base with a few people, see what they're doing. I met people from work, actually, came in, brought their families in, and I met lads I haven't seen since I worked in head office, that was fantastic. And we got to show people what we're doing. It's one thing to watch it online, another thing to actually see a page open on a table and go, ooh, Back in 2019, we only had one issue of which, and people, if something is new, people aren't totally sure of it, But now we have 3 issues, and people were able to see samples, and they were going, oh yeah, we did them a deal like on buying 3 copies. And it worked out really well. A lot of people bought the first issue and went away. And I said to them, have a cup of coffee, you get 5 minutes, have a read of it, see what you think. A lot of people came back and then bought the second issue and third issue, And the same with Nazis Inc., the SSDD one. And we did them a deal with the full, complete Dan Bones and offered them a deal on the first 2 issues of the Sideways Nuns. And it worked out really well. And surprisingly enough, everything sold on the table. It was brilliant.
Everything.
We almost sold out of their kids' books. I brought
brilliant. Oh, brilliant.
I brought a ton of them, and they went from like this much down to this. And I was thinking, oh, if I sell two more, it'd be great. But then things quietened down the second day. And once the cosplay competition is finished, the families tend to go home, you know. But we sold something of everything on the table, and a lot of people bought.
That's fun. Oh, brilliant.
Bought a bag load of stuff. You know, it's great. I got lots of compliments. You know, one lad came from Kenny. You know, specifically just to buy from our table, which was great. You know,
did he?
Yeah, yeah. I met him before other things. And are you going to such and such? Yeah, be there. Yeah, and see us. Yeah, no problem. Lots of people coming up asking us questions, and what I thought I'd do was I'd answer a couple of those questions now. First question you get asked is, when's the next one due out? Well, what they saw at the con is what we have for now.
What's the next issue?
Yeah, and I always tell people we'll have issue 4 a complete that story, for which in a few months' time it'll be end of the summer. I told them that's a conservative estimate. That's doable, like, you know. But they were asking about how do I get started in comics, and I figured I'd do it now and say, I told one guy, you start with a piece of paper and a pen. Either you're an illustrator or you're writing. You just start simple. Don't rush out and buy a computer. Don't buy programs. Don't do anything like that. Just sit down and sketch or write and try and get something and show it to someone and see is it worth your while. What I've been doing is saying, if you want to know how a comic is made, check out Matt Garvey. He's one of 100 people on YouTube who will show you the basics. Won't show you everything, but he'll show you the basics, how to get started and how to avoid a lot of pitfalls. Because believe it or not, you get asked that question over and over and over again. What else in the con? Met a few nice people, met some famous people. It was a great laugh, you know. It's strange because for some people they've waited the whole year to get dressed up as their character, you know, and they get tunnel vision and they run towards someone who's dressed like them, and it's such a sweet little thing to do, you know. What was great was Ron Perlman was there, Hellboy, and they had people as Hellboy. One little girl, she was as Hell Girl, and you want to see her, she was absolutely fantastic, you know. But the depth of detail people go in for in these things, it's incredible, you know. You come away thinking, this is a vibrant thing, this is happening, you know. But that was the con. Pros and cons, there weren't really any cons, you know. Not as such, you know, that you have at every con, because you're going to be standing behind a table for 8 hours and you have to be up all the time and you have to answer the same question over and over again and then do it all over again the second day. And like you have in your little drawing there, you have to be pizzazz, you have to be on.
Pizzazz. So,
if you're sitting there doing this, don't come near me, don't talk to me, buy it or go away, people are going to walk past you. You know, you're spoiling everything for yourself and for the people who could enjoy what you're selling. Whether you're selling stickers, whether you're selling prints you did, or where we sell comics, and you're taking that out of there, you know. They're walking by because there's 3 other people down the line doing something similar, you know, and they gravitate towards the people who are open and standing up and talking. So it's practice, though. You know, it's difficult enough and very difficult for me because I'm not a people person. You know, it takes me a while to warm up to that. But you get a flow, you get a pattern, you get to practice what you're saying, and it really shows that you have to know what you're talking about. You know, because people ask you, is that based on something else or is that based on this? And you got to say, no, that's unique. You know, there's no new stories, but this is our version. You know, but we got lots of compliments about the artwork. You know, only one person said cartoony. You know,
good. Well, that's where you
open. We had things like open, friendly.
Oh, really? Just
right,
okay.
And one guy, he bought a comic off someone, and lovely, beautiful comic, you know. But he said not a lot happens in it, you know. But it was beautifully drawn. It was full color, and it's obviously issue 1 of something else. it's difficult to put everything into issue 1, you know, otherwise you won't have issue 2, you know. But he was complimenting us on how much we get into a book, you know. We fill the page with story and with art, you know. Nothing is just thrown in there just to fill up a page, you know. But you can't compare one comic to another, really, you know. But we got a lot of good comments, I don't think we got any negative comments at all now, to be honest. That's unusual, because there's always someone
really
picking,
fantastic.
But it's great, you know.
A lot of people wouldn't talk about numbers or anything. I'm really, really glad to hear people that you'd sales and we're doing well that way. What I was hearing is a lot of times people say they're just happy to cover the cost of the table. You know, if they've rented the cost, that's what they consider a win, and what they enjoy, the social thing and meeting things and all of that stuff. So even that's because people do get downhearted, you know, and they've gone through and they're doing a self-published thing, and then they're sitting there with a few hundred copies of it and don't know where to sell it and don't have anything to do with it, and get really disheartened and then stop. And that's what's brilliant about Two Pugs, about you and Two Pugs, is that you're at cons, you're selling, you're meeting, you know, and you're not downhearted about it, you're on to the next thing and on to the next thing. So I'm just really, really pleased that, you know, you're doing sales. And
now that's now. When we started off, we had one comic. It was a science fiction comic, and we did the wrong thing. We went to conventions all over the country. Now, if people don't want a science fiction comic, you know, they're going to walk past you. Nowadays, we have a plethora of things. We have a book called Do You Fart, Mr. Monkey? We put that up, and we put it up very prominently, because what that does is people go by and they go, what's that? Once they're at the table, we show them the rest of the stuff. So we get the sale from Mr. Monkey, and then we hopefully get them to buy something else. Now we have like a series, and I found the series actually much easier to sell, you know. And when I was telling them that it's a cliffhanger ending, people wanted to buy one issue of which, and I said, well, it's a cliffhanger ending, and you're gonna want to know what comes next, really and truly. I'm not being funny, but yeah. And lo and behold, people came back. So after a while, we just said, right, we'll offer them a deal, buy the 3 together. So when you have something, when you have variety on the table, it's much easier to sell, because if people walk up, what you do is you look at the t-shirts. Are you into Hellboy? Are you into Deadpool? Is it Marvel? Is it DC? Is it something obscure to me, but a billion people follow it on the planet because it's a manga or it's something like that? And if you can remember, you know, from the last time someone said that was Naruto and that was this, you talk to them, you get them to stop, and you say, this is what we do. And they have a look, you know, getting people to stop. It's all about steps. You have something on the table for everyone, as we have now. Without being silly, if you've got 50 comics on a table, you may as well just be saying, I sell comics, you know. We're selling a brand, which is different, you know. We're phasing out some things. We won't be selling some anymore. You know, there's a couple of things we won't sell anymore because that was what we started off with. People knew us for that. And you can't fill your table up with stuff people aren't buying anymore. You know, this doesn't work. So the new stuff, front and center, here's what we're doing. Here's what we put on Facebook. Have a variety for people who stop, because you need a lot of people at different ages, you know. But the numbers, when we only had comics, a couple of comics, we couldn't sell enough to make it worth a while to go to a big convention. But the books, now we consolidate them into book formats, and the last 2 OGNs have been the straightforward books. The cost of producing those is X amount. It's actually more profitable to sell less of them than it was to sell more comics, individual comics. So we did quite well this weekend, to the point where, you know, honestly, we'd been running on fumes for the last 12 months, you know, and this one convention, it was pretty good, you know. It'll bring us back up by quite an amount, you know. But you have to have a bit of variety. You can be teamed towards something, but you have to have variety. Try and hit different age groups if you can, which we do. We hit the kids, we hit the 20-year-olds, we hit the people who used to buy comics and now are coming back in. Still a lot of men in their 50s wandering up with the kids and going, or the grandkids, and they say, I was into such and such when I was a kid. And I'd say, well, comics are growing up. Here's what we do now. And the idea of a horror Western, that tickled people, the idea is tickle older generation, but the City of Clowns now, people picked it up, and they just had a great look at it, and they smile and they go, is it a comedy? And I said, well, it's a comedy, but it's about the police, the whole world, law, criminality, everything is about clowns. And you can see them going, how's that going to work? And it's sold, I don't know how I'm going to replicate that though, the next one, but we'll see. But you're right. A lot of people look at the bottom line and say, did I cover my table and all the costs of getting there and paying someone to help out and all that crack. And luckily now we did. But my advice to people is, if you only have one comic and you produced it yourself, don't get it printed in big numbers and don't go to a big convention. If you do go to a convention, give a few out free to people at the convention and see what they think. This is what we do, give us some back, feedback. Otherwise, it's a very expensive hobby if you do that, because we did that for the first 3 or 4 conventions. A waste of time. Don't sell your comics at a gaming convention, because people who go there, they're not interested in comics. If it's advertised as a big, and there are a few around Ireland now at cosplay is taking off like crazy, and it's a fantastic thing. It's like supporting your football team, and there's always someone dressed just like you, but if it's a complete and it's advertised as a cosplay convention, don't bother paying for a table. My opinion. The people who make money there are the people who do prints based on comic book characters from Japan and places like that. That'd be my advice to people. Now, someone else can say different. That's okay. I can only tell you what works for us. We made those mistakes. So
we read a convention thing in Queen's University, and I didn't pay for the table. I was there. We were drawing something. There were only 2 or 3 comic tables. The rest, I think it was a more gaming thing. What's the thing on a Queen's? It's called
QCon or something, was it?
QCon. And we were right inside the front door, and the rest of it was all merchandise, Pokemon and what manga and anime and everything. People were there in costumes. They came in and walked right past us.
That's right.
No interest at all.
Yeah.
In comics. And I said, what is this? Is this a comic convention, or is it a costume thing, or games or whatever? I'm not 100% sure what QCon is, but definitely wasn't a comic book thing. It was, it was the costumes. And I love that. I love the costumes and everything. I love the dress up and all of that. As you say, you find your team, and I love the anime and the merchandise and all of that, because that's all part of it. But if it's a comic convention, I would go to a comic convention for comics. That's what I want to talk about and read and see.
I met one of the guys on the way there. He's worked at a big comic book shop here in Dublin, and he said, this isn't really a comic book convention. It's called Comic Con, but it's not really a comic book convention. He said it's a pop convention. It's a cultural thing. And that's what gets people in the doors. I think more people showed up yesterday to get a photograph taken with the guys from Breaking Bad, The Walking Dead, and Ron Perlman and stuff. Because every time I went out through that room, it was jam-packed with people, and they only came for that and went off again. But that's what gets people in the door. That's what pays for the convention. It's, if you couldn't fill that place with comic book readers, strictly comic book readers, unless you had somebody very, very famous, and I'm not so sure they'd come to Dublin. The chap next to us, at the table next to us, he had a platform. He already had a YouTube channel, and he does jokey Irish history, but he's very informative. He was a history teacher. And he had a ton of stuff on his desk about his channel and his brand. And everyone that went by, he could invite them over and say, I know what your t-shirt is. I played that game. I read that comic. And there's what I do. But also, about 150 million times, some teenager went by and say, I know you. You're the guy at that YouTube channel. I passed my Leaving Cert history because of you. I watched your video the night before. And he said, well, there you go, buy something. And they did. He sold out stuff the first day. He was fantastic. But this guy, he had that magic, you know. And again, I know my daughter actually said to me before, she said, yeah, you have to have something else other than just I sell comics, you know. And this is probably part of it as well. You have to have a channel. You have to get it out there, let people know who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it reminds people. People are flicking around YouTube, they come across something, two guys talk about comics, they go, I'll have a listen to that. Then they go buy the comic. Then they're making a comic and they say, I need an artist. I'll contact Jim Lavery. You know,
Yeah.
It, like you said, it's all about everything you do is advertising. Even if just us waffling here today, it's all advertising. And I didn't understand that when I started off in this. You know, I thought you made a comic, put it on the table, somebody bought it, that was it.
Yeah.
It isn't. There is an art form, you know, to the whole
from
thing.
where you've come from now or to now, I mean, when you think of probably, I think we talked about this maybe last week, that if you realized the amount of stuff that you have to know and do and push, and you probably wouldn't do it. Like if you wrote down, somebody wrote it down on a piece of paper and saying, right, you've got to do it. Here's all of the things that you've got to do. Like I'm just by necessity, I'm glued to this spot, just you know, as many pages as I can, you know, because to earn money, and that's just the way it is. And whenever the idea of a con comes up, it sounds brilliant. I thought, oh, great, this would be fantastic. And before the kids are getting older enough now that they could come with me, I took them to there was a con in, is it Dundrum Town Centre?
Oh,
or this a lot of years ago. And Mila was she was 4 or something, and our baby, our middle one, she was a baby. So you know, it was too crazy. It was just crazy, you know, trying to do that. But they're getting old enough now that, you know, they could come with me and we could sit there and that wouldn't be a problem. They'd probably get bored, but as you said, there's the other stuff going on. There's costume. I don't know how they could get bored with all the costumes, and you know, they know the video games and all of this. You know, there'll be something there for them. I probably overstimulated if nothing else. So yeah, I'm hoping over the next wee while that I can start going to cons, because it's so isolating. You know, whenever you sit down to write something, it's you and the piece of paper on your own, and then whenever the con comes, then that's your time to just to pay back and, you know, get some interaction and feedback about what you've been doing all the time.
Yeah, exactly what you said. It's a lonely business, you know. It really is. It's me or it's you sitting in a room somewhere looking at a computer or a piece of paper and thinking. Now the difference is, this is me writing a book. You know, there's nothing fabulous about it. When I need inspiration, I look over my computer at the person I work with and I go, what would she do? And then I go, oh, and then something pops into my head. And I laugh at that. And then it puts me in a good mood. And then I write something else completely unrelated. And I make loads and loads of notes all the time. On the phone, on Post-its in work. I have a Microsoft document that I just throw ideas in. But if you watch a writer actually work, you know, they could be doing the laundry, doing the ironing, you know, and something's gone through their head and they're doing it because it's all up here. There's no feedback to that, you know. When you tell someone, I've got this idea, it's this and it's that, and you get animated about it. And the first time they go, yeah, that's great. After 100 times you told them these ideas, they go, yeah, that's great. That's nice. You know, and that's nothing against them. That's just the way it is, you know. It's like the Formula 2 races going, round, round.
Yeah.
The first two are exciting. After that, you're going, oh, time to go home, you know.
Yeah.
But when you get to see the pages, it's fantastic. It gives you that boost to finish off the project. And then when the project's finished and it's printed and you have the books, that gives you the impetus to go and sell these things. And when you go to the bookshop or you go to the convention, you get validation because people accept what you've done. This is what you've been doing. I was talking to two lads from up the north, or one lad from up the north, Aaron from Comic Book Guys.
Yeah.
And I brought him up some samples to show what we've been doing. And he took them over the thing and he went, "This is what you've been doing for the last, you and Jim?" I said, "Yeah. Last time I spoke to you, you had one book." And that's how it was.
Yeah.
And he was, "What have you got? You got some chain in the basement or something? Is that all Jim does?" I said, "Well, kind of. It's you know, it's the heavy lifting element." So hopefully they'll be taking some books, you know. We're trying to sort that out at the moment, but we'll see. But his attitude was surprising, and I realized I've monopolized you for the last while, you know. You put so much into this, all your time, you know.
Yeah.
You should get some feedback, you know. And I was wondering, would you do a signing somewhere? You know,
Definitely.
It's great to sit there and say, well, you know, sit down yourself. You know, it's like, I do that. Yeah, I do that. Yeah. We all need that. We need something to keep us going. It's not just a paycheck. It's not just a hobby. We do need that bit of validation. You know, that you're going the right direction. You know.
Yeah.
So if you're interested,
I definitely need that, and I definitely want it. What happened was, I had this crazy learning curve whenever I decided, or kind of said, well, I'll give comics a go, because I was PJ would always talk about him, everything, because he's like our common denominator. He was encouraging me the whole time, but what he was saying was putting me off the whole time. So I was working, as I said before in another podcast, as a graphic designer, and that's my job, you know. I qualified as that, and I was working away, and it was fine, and I went out on my own and all of that. And then the kids came along, and I was doing illustration now and again, but I realized just how much I loved it, but I couldn't get it into my job as much as I want. So I was doing my job, and I was trying to find ways to do illustration as well, and paintings, and I'd had an exhibition here and there and all of that stuff. And PJ was telling me about what's involved. As you say, you're sitting on your own waiting for inspiration to come, or researching or something like this. And I was thinking, no thanks. And then you almost have to bribe editors to try and then you've got to get your stuff printed, and then you've got to go out and sell it. And I was sort of looking at him going, no. No, I don't want to do that.
It's daunting.
It sounds too much.
Yeah, it's very daunting.
And so whenever I decided to start in the comics, I'd had a couple of small press things here and there, but just in terms of learning how to okay, what does this mean then, and all the language of comics, because I've read them there's never been a time when I haven't read comics, but then sitting down and actually drawing them, the learning curve, I can't even tell you the learning curve. But then I got in, when working with you was such a good experience as a collaborator, I thought, well, I'll do anything this guy wants me to draw, because this is terrific. I'm enjoying this. I'm going from sorcery and witches and everything to cops to things. And whenever you find somebody, and this is the other thing, because I'd had a couple of bad experiences, whenever we started, or whenever I started, of guys. I remember one guy, and I was doing. PJ said to me, "Here's what I'll do. I'll give you a contact somewhere, and use some free press, or a small press, and free, like you do for free, and it goes into like a what do you call it? Like a fan book or something. I can't remember
fanzine
what it is. And but you get to build up a script. You'll see a script, then you get some work and all of that. And I remember going, right, okay, and you won't get any money, or you might get some back end money, but you're learning. It's your first gig. Okay, right, okay. And so I did this, and there was another writer who, and he went to town on me. The way I had approached it was, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to do whatever I want, and because I'm not being paid for it, that's on me, because I want to do it, right? So you don't get to complain. So I went off on it, like, and I can't even tell you, it was terrible. The artwork wasn't very good at all, and but I was experimenting. I was pushing it as far as I could go. Anyway, the writer said, there's something particular about a costume or a character or something like that. I'd said to have this, or I'd said to have that, or whatever. Anyway, PJ told me, he third hand heard, I will never work with that guy, Jim Lavery, again. I told him it's in the script and he should have written it like this, And I was going, okay, princess, you're not paying me money for this, so I get to do whatever I want, So, but that's the thing you've got to be careful about, because especially with such a small community of comics, this is one real piece of advice that PJ gave me, is if you say you're going to do something for somebody, do it. You've got to do it. Don't not do it. And that, so, but yeah, I need the kind of interaction and get to a con, apart from anything else, to sit down with you and just sit and bash out ideas and kind of push things along and see where we go next, But no, you haven't monopolized me at all. I've just, whenever you find a collaborator, it's like I don't know, Frank, you be Frank Miller and I'll be Klaus Jensen, and or I won't be Lynn Varley. I don't want to be his wife or your wife.
The funny thing is,
Klaus Jensen, and to your Frank Miller. Whenever you find somebody, it's a joy. Whenever
Have you noticed that people who used to just say, insert name here, they're the best, I want to be like him or her, and then when they've gotten to the height of their their field, something comes out, and then you find that they weren't that nice at all, ever. That they held it in when they put the cameras on them and the camera was off, and they were your hero for a long time. It's amazing. I don't know what it is about people's egos that when they get some success, they go off the wall. It's just, and I think the people who are the best are the ones that didn't lose sight of what it's about. Yet they're making this a living, and a good living. It can be a great living, but it's only a niche that's top of the pyramid that are making mega bucks. But not all of them went off the wall. A lot of them are like genuine nice people all these years. No one had any scandal about them. Nothing has come out about them. It's the few that have been knocked off their pedestal, that kind of spoil it. Because I've met a few egos doing this, and sometimes they deserve to have the ego, and sometimes they don't really. It's what we do, we're making comics, it's not solving world's issues, but I get what you mean when the writer was very particular. I wrote this in the script sacrosanct. My first couple of books were like that. I was like that. If something came back and the page wasn't right, something was wrong. Oh Jesus, it was tear the hair out, run around the place. And my family got the brunt of it, And I was always saying to me at the start, "You sure you want to do this? You're like a powder cake, No, I'm fine. You're not fine. But then you settle down. Then you realize that the reason the person got wrong in a tick was you were ambiguous in your script, You asked for a specific thing that didn't do the job, but the artist figured some other way of doing it that was better. Now, sometimes you can't use what you get back because it's just gone wrong direction. That happens on every single thing you do. But yeah, I've met people. I had a guy, he wanted more money, and he was okay with me canceling another job I was doing and putting the money into his job. Right? Now, I don't backbite anybody. I don't say anything about people. But this guy was online telling me that I was wonderful. Oh yeah, I understand your vision. And then he was online to a friend of his saying, "Writers, Jesus Christ, I'm the creative thing here." And I was all ego. He was so compassionate to my feelings. And I was like, I'm going, no, that's not how it is. But it didn't work out, right? And it was a lesson. That's the main thing with this. What I'm saying is it's a lesson. You meet someone like this and you recognize the signs early on, and you go, and you may be a great artist, I can't deal with this for a year.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather find a better artist or one equally as good that I can work with. You know what I mean?
I think maybe it's when I did for my design job, sometimes I worked for advertising agencies, did adverts and this and that, and they would say, we need, here's what we're doing, you know, this or that, and that's what they wanted, and that's it. You know, there's no negotiation. They came in and they told you very, very clearly, we need this and we need that, and that's what you give them. And if you didn't give it to them, then you're out. So working for that kind of environment, there's no, that's my background. You know, we came in, we're doing graphic design job or whatever, and it wouldn't matter if we had to hire a photographer or I did the illustration or we hired a different illustrator, whatever. They said, this is what we want. So for example, you might say, you know, I know for a while we did promotions in a magazine for food. Right, so there'd be an article, it'd be about some chef's kitchen opening up in a restaurant or something like that, maybe specializing in seafood. So we'd need a plate of seafood photographed in it, you know, and that's it. You just go and get the photograph. They would be very, very explicit and say, here's the photograph that we need. And there's no artistic temperament of it. You're paying the guy, the photographer, and you say, here, it's a plate of cod and chips or something like this, and we want to. And I usually sketch it out and describe it and say, look, it's sort of going to look like this. And no, take the peas out or more peas or whatever it is. And it's the same kind of, like, I don't know. It's difficult, but you've got to choose your battles, haven't you? So if you write something, if it's particular,
yeah,
and it's important to the script,
yeah,
that's it. It's got to be in.
Yeah.
But some things can slide. You can go, oh, okay, maybe that. Yeah.
I take your point, what you're saying before about the script comes in and it's very specific. You know, that if you do a job and someone wants something very specific, it's, you know, it has to be that way. For me, the story is very simple in my books, and everything after that, the characterization and the settings and everything else, is on top of that. You know, so if you come up with an idea and you portray something better than I put it in the script, it's great because it's not interfering with the story. You know, it has to be something that completely contradicts itself, or we have to show the murder weapon, as happened in one case when I was somebody else. She forgot to put the murder weapon in. That's the only time I think you might come head to head with an artist and say, look, you got to put that in. And if somebody gets precious in this game, it's wigs on the green, troy knickers in the air, you know. Well, I'm walking away taking everything with me. And you can't do that, because if one of us walks away, there's no comic, you know. And that's what we're here for. You know, we make a comic, make a few bob out of it. I become world famous. That's what it's about, you know.
Like your enemies.
This is it, yeah. And when the time comes, you know. I remember seeing a meme of Schwarzenegger and one of those Conan movies, and his acting wasn't what it is today. And someone asked him, what are the tenets of power? And it was all that about smite your enemies, see their women weeping and all that. But no, this is what it is. It's about, you're making a few bob, I make a few bob, and if I make a few bob, I make more comics. And to do that, it's notoriety, it's people knowing our name, it's getting out there. And that's really what it is. A lot of people come into this now and they want to write a comic that's going to Netflix. And it's a possibility. But it doesn't mean they can tell a story. It doesn't mean they can interpret a script from someone else. It's to get rich quick, you know, Wolf of Wall Street, you know, and everything in our lives is a Ponzi scheme. As long as you keep ahead of the posse, you're fine, everything's grand. But I'll catch up with you in the end. You know, again, even the ego thing we were talking about before, you can have as big an ego as you want. And people can work with that because people with big egos get noticed, they get mentioned. If you've got a book and you want it in a shop, someone with a big ego marches in there, you take my book, you need my book. I'd go in and say, you take your book, please, you know. So big egos are very important. They power through things. But eventually you have to realize that it's only a tool, that ego thing, you know, that confidence thing. It's not, if it becomes who you are, then you're screwed, you know. I saw a thing one time. A guy put up a blank page, and he said online, he said, "I'm a writer. This is my work without an artist." I get what he means.
Yeah.
But what he was really saying was, I live with a lady who's an artist, right? And I'm not going to ruffle any feathers. You know, she's indispensable. Now, he didn't tell anybody that part till afterwards. But
Right.
hits he got and retweets he got. It's a bad thing to divide the artist and the writer. You know, they could be the same person, but it's a bad thing to drive that wedge in there. Now, I'm the creator of the idea, right? You create the pages. My idea comes from somewhere else, somewhere beyond my brain. I don't really understand where my ideas come from. And I don't really take the credit for them. You know, they could happen to anybody. And if someone else can write that story better than me, I won't do that story. You know, I was talking to Wayne Talbot one time when he was doing a comic Western. I don't think he went ahead with it in the end, but I was saying, I'm doing a Western. We both can't do Westerns. And he was, there's plenty of space for 2 Westerns. But I put it on hold because I thought he'd probably do a better job. You know, that became Talking Gun in the end, you know. But yeah, but that driving that division between people, it's a bad idea, you know. And there was another one, somebody famous, a writer, creator, giving a speech one time, a meme went out saying, you're a writer, your artist doesn't need you, you're a parasite. Well, I don't know what the context was there. That went viral, and somebody quoted that back to me. I don't need you, you're a parasite. And I thought, well, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's your opinion. We all need each other, you know.
Yeah.
We're making something. We're part of a chain, you know. I honestly don't know why. You know, it's hard to put into words, but I can't do this without you. You know, I can't do this without an artist. You know, an artist, unless they write themselves, they can't do it without a writer, and none of us can do it without a publisher or a printer. You know, we should be all doing it together. You know, and that's the bottom line for me. We make something together. We put it out, and people pay us to read it, to enjoy it.
Yeah.
All this don't pay her, pay me more money thing. No, never again, never ever collaborate or work with that person again. Won't backbite that person, mention the name, but never again. No.
You gotta move forward. Yeah, you can't.
This is it,
good, better, and different. I remember getting a script, and this is the thing. You can't be too precious, and you can't be too high and mighty. And I know a lot of art. One of the things, a lot of times, artists will say, well, what can I draw? And whenever you're used to a script, the most terrifying thing is being left with a blank piece of paper, because I'll draw Batman or something. You know, I mean, I could spend the day drawing, and eventually I get bored and I'll clear off somewhere else, you know, or I'll just stop doing it, you know, unless I have some sort of direction. And sometimes I set myself a project and say, right, I'm going to do, because I'm interested in one of the things I'd really be interested in, oddly enough, this is a complete left field. I'd love to do 12 illustrations or 12 paintings based on the Stations of the Cross.
All right.
And I'd like to update it, you know, to modern day Israel, or you know, Israeli soldiers taking the place of Roman soldiers, and just what would that be? You know, it's interesting to me. It's not something I've done. I'm not making. I know it's an idea. This is the thing, you know, it's an idea. An artist, as a writer, as an artist, you get these ideas sometimes. And I've never done it, and I know that there's sensitivities and political issues, and because I haven't ever decided what it is, what statement I'm trying to make, or why, because for people who don't know, for Catholics within a Catholic church, there are images, 12 images of Christ's procession to his death on the walls of a Catholic church, usually, and they're usually done in a sort of Renaissance style, very classic painting style, even pre-Raphaelite style, you know. And just being a contemporary person living in the world today, I thought about, update in them, that there would be cars in the background, that there would be the infrastructure and road signs and all of this, that it would look like almost war photography.
All right.
It's just an idea. I'm not making any political statement, other than to update it, to be contemporary, to be more contemporary, and have sort of helicopters and news reports, and people in the crowd would have iPhones, taking photographs and things like that. So that's just an idea. I was just having an idea about that. But that's what I do if I don't have a script.
Yeah.
That's what my head's gone. It's gone. And as much as I can delve into that as an idea and really get onto it, I'm really planning. I'm just as likely to think about a dinosaur in the next 5 minutes, or horses. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's me without a script. And so the point you were making about a collaboration, a collaborative process. When you've got that kind of synergy with someone, that's great. You just try and foster it as much as you can, and feed it. And that's what I love to. Because I was going to say to you, so on our first podcast we did SSDD. On the second one we covered Witch. City of Clowns needs its own podcast itself. Talking Gun needs its own flaming podcast on its own. And as we said in the past couple of times, we've gone from everywhere: vampires and cowboys and detectives and barbarians, and so it's a broad range and so much fun. One of the things I was going to say to you about Soma was I read the first couple of pages. I go, I don't know where this is going.
Yeah.
You know how you see in a sci-fi thing, usually in the first page or two or three, you know where you are. And because it's science fiction, there's a planet and there's spaceships and there's a robot. But they're like the staple. That's what makes science fiction science fiction. But as for the plot, I go, don't know where this is going, which is really terrific, because you've got to read to the end. You've got to go to the end. Okay. This is like the two pugs method. This is what makes two pugs. Because you could pick up any one of those other books and go, I don't know where this is going. I don't know. Before we came on the podcast, no spoilers or anything, but I was drawing the latest page of SSDD, and there's only 2 panels on the page, and finally I get to draw this character that you've teased me with at the end of the last book, and one of the shots is from over the head looking down, so it's not even a full frontal. It's still teasing. I'm still going to get there and do that. So I'm really looking. I want to get back to it.
He has a scene where he's sort of as exposition, but he's talking to himself, and he explains kind of where he came from.
Right.
You realize that he was the boy at the start that got the tattoo. That his anger and stuff. And he in the tattoo parlor, he picks the tattoo.
That's right. Yeah.
And the girl says, "Strong totem," and all that, And you rub that tattoo, you become a gorilla for a short period of time. And he still has his faculties.
Yeah.
But there's a price to be paid down the road.
Yeah.
He's on the roof and he explains things to the reader, a few things that we didn't know. And it's kind of shocking in a way to get people to go, this is a comedy book, but, don't get comfortable. That's what he's about. And he's actually a very tragic character. When he gets to the end and you see his last few panels, when you get there eventually, he's quite a tragic character, and feel sad for him, Anyway, but I know what you mean. It's great to have a larger than life character that could just explode off the page like that. It's great. You can't put them in everything because they just dominate things. He was the main character in the original script. Himself and his friend, the young boy, who was like a Flash prototype, energy. And when I threw that out, I just didn't want to lose the gorilla, and he became a mainstay for me. Always the back of my mind, what's he doing? He's on top of the building. He calls the police and gets them all there, and he's monitoring the situation, and he's making sure that when they effect entry, it's done a certain way. You can't just pick the guys off with a sniper from down the road. There's got to be guys going into that building, and there's a reason for that. You find out at the end, you know, why he need people in there. So it's all connected. But he is a really good character. When I saw him on the page, I went, yeah, you know. And I actually had an idea for a team of gorillas, like a SWAT team.
Yeah.
The Apes of War, it's called.
The Apes of Roche.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. It's too jokey, you know, at the moment in my head.
Yeah.
It's an idea in there somewhere.
But you even had a setup and payoff where the guys on, for anybody who hasn't picked up yet a copy of SSDD, well, finish the podcast first and then get your hands on a bloody copy. But you even do the part where and then it's not until I'm drawing this later that I realized, God damn it, because back in issue 1, I don't know if I got it here in front of it, I got all my life in my comics or my situation here, because back at the end of, he's eating a bloody banana.
Yes, that's him.
Right?
Yeah.
So the banana is there. That's the setup.
Yeah, we realized that the boy and all his getting a tattoo happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's an important thing. Now, time isn't what we think in this story. So that's him there, on the banana away.
That's him there.
Yeah, he's finally in charge of everything. But yeah, he's eating a banana because it's a clue, you know.
Yeah, it's a clue. It's that kind of, it's the brilliance of comics. It's one of those things I love about comics that almost no other medium can do. So we touches like that, because as I'm reading and drawing the script, I'm going, and then there's the second clue where he's in the tattoo and he's asking for the gorilla, the thing, you know. So little breadcrumbs just
yeah.
You know.
Like I say, I was talking to someone at the con and they had this comic and he bought it and he was flicking through it and he was going, "It's not what happens in this," you know. But that's unfair because it's only the first issue, you know. They can have 10 more coming out that explain everything, do all sorts of them. And it's hard to introduce a character, you know, and give them time to word their way into the heart of the reader. You know, you got to introduce characters a certain way. You know, I spend a lot of time on that. But I take his point. You know, we go into a lot of story and there's a lot of breadcrumbs, things happening. There's always threads and things. But if someone wasn't used to doing that, I am. But if someone wasn't, they could get caught up quite easily in the flashbang wallop of something exploding on page 1. That explains everything. It doesn't explain anything, but you know, but it catches people's attention. And that's what's important. Someone flicking through a page at a convention, they go, "Oh, yeah, I'll buy this." When they read it afterwards, they realize there's not as much in that as they thought.
Yeah.
Something we get a lot of time is people read our stuff 2 or 3 times, you know. They read it, they go halfway through, put it down, they go, "Whoa," and then they finish it off, you know. Because there's probably now someone to say there's a lot of story in our comics, you know. A guy who reviews comics, you know, he said, "You pack a lot in there, like, you know." You probably wouldn't read one of our novels when it's finished as a novel in one sitting, you know, where some comic you just devour it in one go. But yeah, I take your point. There's just little threads everywhere. And it is great fun to write the ape character, and it must be great fun to draw him. And I wish I could put him on every page, but I can't. But,
well, he could do his own. It's an embarrassment of riches, you know. Really, it really is that there are all these characters, and you go, "Oh, well, that could be a book on its own. That could be a book on its own. Yeah, this could be, you know."
Well, you put a character in. I needed a guy that looked like the Barbarian in a Witch series, and you drew a fella standing in line who gets mistaken for him. The way you drew him set me off in a whole different direction, writing a story about him. And we could do that forever, but we just don't have the time, you know.
We don't have the time. You're going to have to, well, we'll pitch it to whenever Image Comics want to buy us out, they can hire more artists and say, "Here, we've got a few more ideas and where we want to go and all of that." And get some royalties, get that Netflix deal right. We're free, but there's I had to go and do another anatomy lesson about gorillas anatomy, because you think it's just like a man but what you've got to be careful of is it just doesn't look like you're drawing badly proportioned, like a man with really long arms or really small legs, that it just looks out of proportion. So it's a difficult thing, but it's fun.
And there's so many
I wanted to
different
ask you too.
yeah, go on.
In my mind, at the end of Nazi's Ink, he had like a boiler suit on or something.
Yeah.
Whereas when he's, I don't want to give anything away, spoiler, Haley can cut this out if it's a spoiler. He's in like a shirt and t-shirt and shorts.
Well, you see, what happens is when he goes from a human to the gorilla, you know, he needs something that will stretch for him, you know, kind of way.
Yeah.
You can't have the whole purple trousers on him because, you know,
yeah,
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know? He looks fabulous in that boiler suit because he looks like he's an experiment that burst out of a lab, you know, and this is how they dressed him. It's just when you see it open his mouth and all those teeth, we think gorillas are these lovely creatures, you know, and they are just power packed, you know,
terrifying,
so dangerous. Yeah. I love the way you draw them, you know, and
he's kind of, you know, you don't get, I mean, I love that. It's just a brilliant character to draw, especially whenever you know, we're getting into it now where he really will make an appearance. I think I give him sort of almost a short boiler suit, you know, because you've got these big hairy forearms and you want to make, you know, the most of it, you know, but I think he just looks cool, you know, he just looks really, really cool. But again, that's the kind of, it's not really my, what can I say? It's all on the page, it's in the script, you know. I haven't
well, the effect
gone out nowhere.
The effect you've gone for with the SWAT team that are breaking in, that feeling of cloth, camouflage cloth, almost not quite camouflage, but it's comfortable, but it's assault gear you're wearing. You've done really well with that. Not a lot of detail in it, especially in the guns and stuff. And the shadows are all like intermingling. They look the part, you know. They do it. It's that thing like from Lazarus where the shape is suggested, where it's not fine detail until you get to the eyes. And you see the eyes in the goggles, and they're fine detail. You know, that's amazing. The look of those guys going there, trudging that in, it's just brilliant. You know, it's rough and ready. These guys have traveled in these clothes. You know, they've gotten dirty in these clothes, and they're breaking into this place. And of course, look at it as a place because they're not storming a castle or a forest. They're breaking into a bank. You know, where all the lines are square. You know, and they are they're not tidy. You know, that's what's so good about it. We hit the mark sometimes. You know, there you go.
They're terrifying. Some, you know, those things in border suits just bearing down. I can even imagine if you were a crook and you were, you know, and these guys just surrounded you in the car or something while they come near you with the guns and everything. They just were terrifying, absolutely terrifying. There's something else. And then you had I don't want to spoil it.
You can say what you like, because by the time this goes out, the issues will have come out or won't, and it makes no difference, you know.
Well, I'm not going to say what, you know, it just shows you how much of I'm trying to get a good shot of them. So we had these characters.
Yes.
I won't tell you what happens to them, right? But they're in, and we've got so many characters going away, we don't know what to do with. I'll not say what happens to them, but they're not around for too long. Right? It's safe to say. But it's just like we're just coming up with characters so much the whole time. We don't need them. You know. But I was like, oh,
they're almost caricature. You know, they're wearing these face mask things you put on them. They're designed to frighten people. It's shock tactic. You know. The boys in the SWAT team are doing it for a living. You know, they're wearing workwear. What these guys are wearing here, that's not workwear. You know. I won't say who these people are, but they don't usually wear these kind of clothes. You know.
No. And I remember going through it. I was sketching, drawing, and I thought, oh, and people were, and then I went to look at, right, okay, well, who are they? Let's. I can imagine a whole other kind of series of like Bo and Sam tracking them, like they always know who they are. They're after them. They nearly get them all the time, and it leads them up to the first appearance in Sideways Nuns.
Really, these people are, like you say, they're disposable. They were hired to do a job, and they're not who people think they are, you know.
Yeah.
And as you say, they're not around very long.
I bet you they'll turn up somewhere else. I bet you that they turn up somewhere else because you go, you just have them in. We'll use them for. I can't. There's too much spoilers about it. Just get it away. I don't want to spoil anything else. So, just to finish up, I know we'd finished kind of. Well, there's a couple of things. One was, so it must be you feel rejuvenated from the con.
I took the day off work. I was so tired. You're up all the time, and you're standing on your feet, and you're talking all the time, and the next day it hits you. You know, 2 whole days of that, and then today, I went upstairs for 5 minutes. I was gone for 2 hours. I fell asleep on the bed. You know, just gone. And until I had dinner this evening, I wasn't myself at all now. You know, it just really drains you every single way, you know. And as day goes on, you remember, oh, that happened and that happened. And I met Daniel Fee, and he turned out to be a giant.
Did you meet him?
Yeah, he's a giant. He's up here. And I said, how are you so tall? You don't just say, and he said, not a table I sit behind is huge. I'm going to do the interviews. Right. So I look small. I met his father, lovely man. The two of them there now. Oh, like well-oiled machine. They were around setting up the camera, down, gone, next table, up. Oh, they're fantastic. But he was saying he's looking forward to organizing something between 3 of us. So that'd be nice.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we'll have to.
We have to keep open though, you know, because he goes so
he's a kid, man on a mission, isn't he? He's doing really, really well. Really big interviews.
Definitely a wonderkind, yeah. And you just know he's not doing it for notoriety. He loves comics. No, he's a young man, and comics are everything, and he believes everything. And that's amazing, you know.
Yeah,
we all felt like that at one time.
You just made that point. You know, I was thinking about that. You know, people who are into it and their egos and all of this to feed their egos. And my feeling is always that success, and I don't know about money, but success and reputation, everything, they're like a byproduct. If you do your best work, and your work is the most important, your work's more important. Any success that comes along is a byproduct of doing that. So you were saying that, you know, people, how do you get started and everything? Yeah, get a piece of paper and sit down and do the work. You've got to do the work. Just sit down and do the work. And then everything that comes after. Like, I would never have met you. I was putting feelers out at Twitter. I'd met some other guys. I finished up a book a while ago for a guy, Dave Evans, who sadly died last year. And I finished the book for him for his family, really, because I'd started it with him in the small press, and then whenever he passed away, I just felt like a responsibility just to do that, for him to see the end to that. You know, the guy I never met in real life. You know, only an email thing back and forth. But you meet these connections you have with people, and it's worth more than that. I think, you know, you get down to a comic convention, you meet those people, and people get to know you and know two pugs, and hopefully know me through 2 pugs as well. And I hope you don't mind either that I'm as associated with 2 pugs as you are, or people associate me with 2 pugs. I'm really delighted. I'm overjoyed if anybody does that. Because 2 pugs is on my tongue, you know, if I'm talking about, I'm doing this thing with Ray, or I've done that thing with Ray, or everything. So it's just off the top of my tongue, you know. I'll have to get down to a con soon. I just look forward to it, just being people, just being there, and all the razzmatazz of showbiz.
You see, like we said in the very first thing we did, there was a time this was frowned upon, comics.
Yeah.
It's childish thing. You go to these conventions and there was many people my age doing something, whether it's woodcraft or it's making weapons or making plastic replicas of things or doing combat fighting things outside on the green. A lot of age groups, from the smallest to the oldest. It's a community of sorts, and it's good and bad, but predominantly good, and you, no matter who you are, you go to these things and you find that someone has something in common with you. Any interest you have within comics or that whole thing of manga, gameplay, everything, you'll find someone there to sit and talk to you for 5 minutes, and they get it just the way you get it. And it's fabulous, You have to talk to the guy at the 2 tables over, because the next thing you do, you might need his help on, or he might need your help on, or your artist pulled out for some reason. He knows an artist, who you can recommend. Big thing about artists and writers is something we should have said at the start of all these things is, if you're going to hire someone or going to work for someone, get a recommendation, but get it from the right person, If I'd known that, things might have gone a different direction, that's just the way it is, I had a few experiences like yourself, and that they're necessary because you learn what not to do. So you go to a convention, you got to talk to the guy or the girl next table or the table over or two aisles over, because eventually they're going to be doing an anthology or they're going to be doing something, or you're doing something. And they'll remember that. I remember talking to Ray at that convention and he was into this, that, and he might know someone, and vice versa. When you go to Roche Comics, they've been doing this since the start. They know everyone, and especially Wayne. Wayne will tell you, you want a colorist? He's good, she's good, they're on the road, because people start off on the road and they get better and better as they go along. And he'll tell you where that person is on that road. It's great. A resource. Paul Carroll, LB Comics, there's nothing doesn't know about Kickstarter, things like that. You can go to these people, you can pick their brains. That's what they're there for, If someone wants to talk about writing and how you structure a story, come to me. I break it down very easy for them, someone's always coming to me and saying, I've got an idea, it's such and such, and I'll say, well, that's been done by somebody. Oh, well, have you thought about this instead? And they go off, and next thing, a year later, I see that's that idea I gave them in the comic, and they just go, yeah, why not? Where's my royalties, but that's part of the content, that's part of the community part. You don't have to meet people to network, but it's great to see them in person because we're human beings, shake hands, and they remember when they need something, or if they're stuck, or if they have 2 of something and they want to give 1 to someone, they need to remember you. And that's opportunities. That's what it's about. We can be sitting there based.
And you've also people are so giving. I mean, you could just walk up to someone like you and say, "Excuse me," introduce yourself. You're in a conversation, and next thing, half an hour later, you've come away with all the questions that you had answered. And they're so giving. People are just so giving. Oh, you need a colorist? Did you say? I know a guy, so and so. And that's. I was nervous whenever I was, I don't know why I was nervous, but I never found anybody who was unwilling to sit down and sort of share and be given in that way.
I asked a guy, fairly well-known writer, artist, whatever, and one-man show kind of thing. I got Port Leash a couple of years ago, actually 2018. I went over thinking, I've made a comic, he makes comics. I'll go and we're simpatico. This man was a plank of wood. I got really? 1-word answers out of him. And not something against the guy, and he did the same to everybody. It wasn't me, but one of the lads I was sitting beside, this well-known person was writing a little note, and he's writing a back in 5 minutes and going to the Luke kind of note, you put on your table, you walk away. And the guy sitting beside me said, oh look, he's written another book. And I didn't understand what he meant. But yeah, the man just gives you 1-word answer. So he writes 3 words on the page. That's a book, And you get that. That's his personality though. That's who the person is. But it hasn't held him back. Yeah. He is fantastically popular, and he's very good now, I have to say. I look at his stuff and he doesn't say an awful lot, but
Yeah.
he tells a story. And I'm going, how the hell do you do that? Like, I have to use 1,000 words to say that. I had to get Jim on board for 10 pages to say what he did there.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, that brevity that he has, it works for him in everything he does. I think it's his mindset.
Yeah. For anybody who watches the video, shall we do City of Clowns next week, or
whenever.
Talking Good?
Yeah.
City of Clowns next week. If anybody has any comments, good, bad, or indifferent, please put them in the comment section. If you have any tips, we're talking about tips, any of your own convention stories, put them in the comments. If you have any
questions, just ask.
Questions, anything at all. And email address, do we have an email address, Ray?
twopugspublishingireland@gmail.com.
And if there's anything you want to know from us in terms of making comics or for upcoming podcasts, put that in the comments below. But please, if you could just do us, this is the modern begging, like and subscribe and comment.
It's always a pleasure. You know that.
Yeah.
Look forward to talking to you again, man. See you next week then. Okay.
Next week, dude. Thanks very much.
God bless. Bye-bye.